Still looking at more upside for USD. However, we've had a pretty steep correction the past few hours, but we have come into a healthy place for potentially another push to the upside. Coming back into this area where we did have a brief consolidation last week, stalled for a few hours, and did see a really big move to the upside, of course, coming into this new week. And I did say I'm still expecting to see a push back to the high there at 110. So the bias for the dollar is still very bullish. However, in terms of looking to get involved, we need to see price start to hold this area, start to form some wicks, and we could be looking at a big move back to where we came from. Looking at the lower time frames, like the hourly chart, things do look pretty bearish still. So I want to see some evidence of price stalling at this area, wicks, shift in momentum, evidence that we're holding support. And that could be a nice confirmation to go long on dollar, but potentially short euro, short pound. We'll get into those pairs in a moment. But USD DXY is still a pretty comfortable area for some buys where we could turn around. Nice consolidation, really strong move to the upside. Now let's see if price can hold on to this. But at the moment, like I said, still looking pretty bearish. So I need to wait for evidence of price turning around. If we do go and break through this area, then I'll probably back away, especially if we break through the low here. That to me is a bit more of a sign of either consolidation or reversal. I wouldn't say the break of that low is necessarily going to make me quote unquote bearish, because this is still the higher low that gave us the higher high. So technically speaking, this is really the low that will put me bearish. But even then, we could still consolidate as well. So if we do break through this low, I'll be looking at this as a bit more of a consolidation or potentially a reversal. We'll see how price develops afterwards, whether we start selling off aggressively or we just kind of chop around. We'll make note of that. But at the moment, really key area, if we do hold this, like I said, USD buys look good, break through, things do get a bit choppy at that stage. So my bias for USD for now is look to see what we can do at this area, and target still back at that same higher high at 110. In terms of EURUSD, again, pretty much the exact opposite. Looks like price has corrected itself as well. So of course, with USD tanking yesterday, EURUSD is going to push up as well. I'm still looking for a push back into the low here, and looks like price has pretty much filled the gap. We gap from this area here to the open there, and you pretty much would consider that gap filled. So the market has filled that gap very, very well. I was debating whether price would go fill it straight away or potentially might take a few days, but literally within 24 hours, prices filled the gap very, very well. Pound USD did it pretty quick as well yesterday. So yeah, that gap is filled. We've seen price come back into an area again where we could find some resistance supply and potentially sell off as well. So we're kind of in the same situation with the dollar as we are with euro, coming to an area where we've seen bearish pressure before. So if the market is going to hold into this area, we could see another lower high form. We had one over there, second over there, could be looking at third. For again, another sell back into this low. Like I said, if you do break through that area, that would definitely relax my bearish bias with EURUSD, and I will kind of just see and monitor how price develops, because again, we might form a larger consolidation. Maybe we do form a big reversal, and we could be steaming to the upside. We have to see how things develop. But if you do break through this area, especially take up the high then the left, that does kind of invalidate this bearish structure here. So yeah, I won't be looking at sells actively anymore. But coming into this area, very interesting area, pretty much in sync with the DXY. If we can hold it, it does look like price can turn around. And of course, if that's the case, then we're coming back to these lows here. We still have that last major lower high up there at 1.062. Just after we created that low, then of course we created the lower low. So the plan is lower high, lower low, so on and so forth. However, we'll see how price reacts at this 1.038 area. Pound USD, I was looking at this one as well, but the retracement was pretty aggressive. Like I said, we filled the gap pretty quickly for pound USD. Before yesterday was over, price was already filling that gap pretty well. And now we're back at an area of supply as well. So same situation for pound USD in terms of back at consolidation, strong drop to the downside. Can price hold this to continue that bearish sequence? If we zoom out, you can see the numerous lower highs the market's been printing. In fact, if we go to the daily chart, see a little bit better with the high over there, lovely drop, another lower high, lovely drop, lower high. So again, looking for pretty much the fourth lower high in the sequence for again a push back to the low. So the plan is to look to continue that momentum. Again, if pound USD does break through this area, that would then put me off the trade, to be honest, because we've had a really strong sell. Market's now putting a higher low in. And of course, taking out that high means we're putting a higher high in. So again, invalidating structure. Again, it might just be a large correction or a big consolidation before we before we sell off again. But I'd have to wait for things to develop and wait for another good opportunity to arise. If you do break through that, I wouldn't be actively looking to short pound USD anymore. As we're invalidating some structure there. So pound USD, nice error consolidation. At the moment, things are still looking pretty bullish. If I drop to the hourly chart, again, if you could see some rejection at the high there, that could be a nice short maybe this afternoon. But unless we don't get that, then yeah, we might break through there for pound USD. So very, very important to see some sufficient rejection in this area, because there was a pretty strong move to the upside yesterday for pound. Of course, USD did sell pretty hard, but pretty strong move to the upside there for pound. So we need to see some sufficient rejection to tell us that price is coming back down again. Otherwise, it does get a bit awkward. Moving on to dollar CAD, actually. This one dropped very, very hard. So as you can see there, really, really big push to the downside. I was talking about a retest of this range yesterday, but price just came back way, way too hard for that. And yeah, kind of trading back inside that range. So I wouldn't be looking for the retest anymore. Again, the idea of the retest of the range is that we stay above it. We don't break back underneath. That kind of beats the purpose of it. And especially with that such a strong move up, big move down, this to me looks like an inverse V-shaped pattern, which again typically means reversal for price action. If price does have a really strong move to the upside followed by a big move down, typically you do see something like this form, that being an arrow. Excuse the awful drawing, but you guys get what I mean. So it looks like we're getting the characteristics of a inverse V-shaped pattern, pretty much a head and shoulder pattern as well. Yeah, to me, it looks like price could be looking at a tumble over. Of course, we still got a lot of work to do, but if things keep up with that momentum, I wouldn't be surprised if we do start trending to the downside here a little bit for dollar CAD, especially when you take into consideration where we're coming from. On the weekly chart, massive, massive resistance, once over there, second time over there. And if you look at where we are trading now, we've actually spiked through the highs there. So we've taken out some highs from 2016, which, we haven't done since 2016. So a very, very long time. So major, major resistance. The previous two times we rejected this level, we've had some colossal moves to the downside here. Really, really big moves, aggressive moves as well. So we're coming to an area where, if you're a long-term buyer, and let's say you got into some buys down here, this is where you're looking to take your profits most likely, or at least a good chunk of it anyway. So you could probably anticipate a load of buys, taking profits, and of course a load of sellers jumping in, trying to push price down as well. So very, very heavy level of resistance, and taking into consideration the price action we're seeing from it as well, it does look like maybe this could be just a big fake out to the upside, and we could see price potentially start to trend down. So I'll keep a consideration for that for dollar CAD in the next few days. In terms of Aussie dollar, really strong move to the upside as well. Again, we talked a lot about this one. I said I'm not really looking to sell this one anymore because things are getting very choppy. We're breaking structure to the upside as we did over here. Then we broke structure to the downside as well. Again, characteristics of a range, or at least the market that isn't trending well. So again, I said yesterday, if price is going to continue the bearish trend, I want to see some really strong evidence of price pushing to the downside. Otherwise, you probably will just push back up here, and we have gone and just filled that gap there for Aussie dollar. So now the Aussie dollar has filled the gap, what's the next move? Well, since there's no kind of clarity with the direction of price anymore, at least here, of course, in the higher time frame, things are still pretty bearish. In terms of the more immediate price action, it is still very choppy. So we might continue to chop back and forth. until price makes a breakout, whether it's going to be to the upside or to the downside. Again, we're not a fortune teller, wait and see where price goes. But again, if we are looking to have a bigger pullback, maybe we do break to the upside and we'll look for some pullbacks on the way up there. But for now, it's still pretty much consolidation there for Aussie dollar. So I don't really have too much to say about it whilst we're in the middle. If we can start breaking through the highs again or the lows, then I'll start to talk about momentum and where we could be headed to next. In terms of New Zealand dollar, this one as well, same characteristics as Aussie dollar. We broke the highs there, but also broke the lows there as well. So again, characteristics of a market that is starting to range, start to chop around. So again, in terms of direction, everything is still pretty bearish as we can see. But however, since we are starting to consolidate now, it might be a situation where we do go through a bit of a counter trend move. Maybe price wants a bit of a breather before continuing later on. I have talked about a few levels which I do like. Talked about the retest of this low, talked about the retest of this area here as well. So maybe it's time to go and retest some of those areas before we do continue bearish. But yeah, strong move to the upside yesterday from that low, filled the gap. Maybe we might see a bit more upside this afternoon, but it is pretty choppy price action there. So not really looking to trade it. In terms of gold and silver, yeah, gold's still pretty bullish yesterday. We talked about gold briefly yesterday as well. I spoke about a couple of areas which I like. These are a bit more intraday areas here, which look good. Price looks like it retested the first level pretty well and created some new all-time highs again. I said I'm still waiting to see if we can get that bigger pullback into 2720, I believe. Yeah, 2720, 25. That area still looks pretty good. It still looks good now as well because we have taken out the all-time highs. I wonder if we will see a bigger pullback now for gold. You know, last time we made those highs, we had a really mad, crazy sell-off there. So I wonder, will we go through something similar again and have a bigger correction? And I could find some areas to take it back up again. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, gold's still very bullish. Still seeing consistent higher highs and higher lows since the low back down over there. So it looks like we're still very much in full flow and could see price drop again just to continue as well. So if you are still looking at gold, I'll still be looking to try and find the next higher low. I think price is pretty consistent with this trend line here as well. So as long as that stays intact, this kind of aggressive trend stays at play. So, you know, pullbacks close to the trend line look like some good buys until we break through. Then we can start to discuss potentially a bigger pullback. Silver, still not the biggest fan of silver. I mean, long-term things do look good still. But again, we're coming to a very choppy area where it's difficult to find some entries in terms of buys. Again, still a very corrective move to the upside here. So still potentially we could still see a sell-off for silver if we are going to see another lower high in comparison to that prior high. So of course the high here, really heavy move to the downside, create new lows. Now we've got this corrective pullback here. Is that potentially going to create another lower high for potentially another big move down? It could be. The way to kind of invalidate that would be breaking structure, taking out that high there on the left. And that will be a strong indication that, okay, we're probably not going to sell off anymore. We're probably going to continue to the upside. And the next major target would be all the way up here at 34.852. So if we can take out the highs there, that'll be brilliant. Then I'll be very much on the silver bullish train, looking for pullbacks, high lows, and so on and so forth, all the way back to 34.852. But at the moment, it's just a bit of a sticky situation in terms of buying right now because we had such a strong drop there. Even though I do expect price to break through, it just doesn't make too much sense in terms of finding entries. Again, if you're on the smaller time frames, you probably get in and out of a trade pretty quickly. But at least from a swing point of view, maybe it's not the most ideal situation or location to find entries. But yeah, very, very bullish in silver long term, looking for a push to the high there. But let's see if we can take out that high there first before looking for longs. But yeah, overall, still pretty bullish on the dollar, but we do need to hold. We do need to hold this area here.